The loudest sound in the room wasn't the shouting, it was the scratch of a pen against paper. Liam and his mother Beatrice looked at Sarah with smiles that could cut glass. They thought they had won. They thought they had tricked a useless housewife into walking away with nothing but the clothes on her back and a beat-up sedan. They checked their watches, eager to pop the champagne and welcome the new younger mistress into the family mansion. But they didn't know that the moment the ink dried on those divorce papers, a second document was waiting to be opened. A document that was worth $500 million. And it had one strictly enforced clause: Sarah could only claim it if she was legally single. The smile on Liam's face was about to die a very painful death. The conference room on the 42nd floor of the Sterling & Associates building was specifically designed to intimidate. It was all glass chrome and aggressive air conditioning. The view overlooked the Manhattan skyline, a sprawling testament to power and money. Two things Sarah Sterling currently had none of. She sat on the edge of the leather chair, her hands folded in her lap to hide the fact that they were trembling. She wore a simple navy dress, one she had bought at a discount outlet 3 years ago. Across from her sat the tribunal, her husband Liam Sterling, his mother, the formidable Beatrice Sterling, and their shark of a lawyer, Mr. Coburn. "Let's just get this over with, Sarah." Liam sighed, checking his Rolex Submariner. It was a gift Sarah had saved for 2 years to buy him for his 30th birthday. Now he looked at it as if her very presence was wasting its precious ticks. "I have a tea time at the club in an hour. Jessica is waiting." The mention of the name Jessica sent a dull ache through Sarah's chest. Jessica was 23, an Instagram model, and the daughter of one of Liam's business partners. She was everything Sarah wasn't: loud, flashy, and wealthy by birth. "Please, Liam," Sarah whispered, her voice cracking slightly. "Do we have to do this here? Can't we just talk privately?" "There is nothing to talk about," Beatrice interjected. Her voice was like grinding stones. She adjusted her pearls, looking at Sarah with pure disdain. "You've been dragging down my son for 5 years. You provide no connections, no capital, and frankly, you're embarrassing to look at galas. We offered you a settlement. It's more than you deserve." The lawyer, Mr. Coburn, slid a heavy binder across the polished mahogany table. "The terms are final, Mrs. Sterling. You get the 2018 Honda Civic. You get a lump sum of $10,000 to help you get on your feet. And you sign a non-disclosure agreement stating you will never discuss the internal affairs of the Sterling family or their business dealings." $10,000. After 5 years of nursing Liam through his anxiety attacks, managing his schedule, cooking his meals, and enduring Beatrice's daily psychological torture, they were buying her silence for the price of a used car. "And if I don't sign?" Sarah asked, looking up. Her eyes were dry. She had run out of tears weeks ago. Liam laughed, a cruel barking sound. "Then we drag this out in court. My lawyers will bury you in paperwork. You'll be homeless before you see a dime. And I'll make sure no one in this city hires you. Be smart for once in your life, Sarah. Take the crumbs and go." Sarah looked down at the paper. She remembered the day they met. Liam had been charming, then playing the part of the misunderstood heir. He had told her he wanted a simple life. He had lied. He wanted a servant who would applaud him, and when he decided he wanted a trophy instead, Sarah became trash to be taken out. "Fine," Sarah said softly. Beatrice smirked, leaning back in her chair. Finally, she sees reason. Sarah picked up the heavy fountain pen. It felt cold. She looked at the clause, irretrievable breakdown of marriage. No further claims to assets. She didn't hesitate. She signed her name, Sarah Sterling. She pushed the papers back. Liam grabbed them immediately, signing his name with a flourish. He capped the pen and tossed it onto the table, the plastic clattering loudly. "Done," Liam said, a massive grin spreading across his face. He looked at his mother. "Free." "Ideally, we should have done this a year ago," Beatrice sniffed, standing up. "But better late than never. Mr. Coburn, file these immediately. I want the divorce decree stamped by the judge this afternoon." "It's already arranged, Mrs. Sterling," the lawyer said, closing the binder. "As of this moment, for all intents and purposes, the marriage is dissolved. The electronic filing has just gone through." "Excellent." Liam stood up, buttoning his suit jacket. He looked at Sarah, his eyes filled with mocking pity. "Well, Sarah, good luck. You know where the elevator is. Don't expect a reference." Sarah remained seated. She didn't move toward the door. She didn't look devastated. She looked at her watch. "What are you doing?" Beatrice snapped. "Get out! You're trespassing." "I'm just waiting," Sarah said. Her voice was different now. The tremble was gone. It was steady, controlled. "Waiting for what, an Uber?" Liam laughed. "I cancelled the credit cards an hour ago." "No," Sarah said, lifting her eyes to meet his. "I'm waiting for Arthur." "Arthur? Who is Arthur?" Liam frowned. The heavy double doors of the conference room swung open. 3 men walked in. They were not wearing the standard grey suits of mid-level corporate lawyers. They were wearing bespoke Italian wool. The man in the lead was older, with silver hair and a presence that sucked the oxygen out of the room. He carried a briefcase that looked like it cost more than Liam's car. Mr. Coburn, the Sterling's lawyer, turned pale. He stood up abruptly, knocking his chair over. "Mr. Blackwood, Arthur Blackwood." Liam looked confused. "Who is this that—" Mr. Coburn stammered, "is the senior partner of Blackwood, Hale and Thorne. They represent the royal families and the Fortune 100. Arthur Blackwood ignored Liam and Beatrice completely. He walked straight to Sarah. He didn't look down at her. He bowed his head respectfully. "Excuse me, Miss Jenkins," Arthur said, his voice deep and gravelly. "Is it done?" Sarah pointed to the binder on the table. "They just signed, Arthur. The electronic filing went through 2 minutes ago. I am legally divorced." Arthur smiled. It was a terrifying smile, but not directed at Sarah. "Excellent. Then we can proceed." Beatrice stepped forward, her face turning red. "Who do you think you are bursting into my private meeting? Security." "Sit down, Beatrice," Arthur Blackwood said, without raising his voice. The command was so absolute that Beatrice actually froze. Arthur placed his briefcase on the table, pushing Liam's divorce papers aside as if they were napkins. He clicked the latches open. "I am here representing the estate of Silas Harrington," Arthur announced. The room went silent. Silas Harrington was a myth in the business world, a recluse billionaire who owned shipping lines' real estate empires and, crucially, was the majority shareholder of the bank that held the loans for Sterling Enterprises. "What does Harrington have to do with us?" Liam asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Mr. Harrington passed away 6 months ago," Arthur explained, pulling out a thick document bound in blue velvet. "He had no children, but he did have an estranged granddaughter, a granddaughter who ran away from the toxicity of high society to live a humble life, a granddaughter he watched from afar for years." Arthur turned the document around. "Mr. Harrington's will had a very specific bad husband clause," Arthur continued. "He knew his granddaughter had married, beneath her station. He knew she married a man who was vain and cruel. Silas didn't want his fortune to go to her husband in a divorce settlement. So the trust was locked. Arthur looked at Liam, whose face had gone grey. The inheritance could only be executed the minute Sarah Jenkins was legally divorced and had no financial ties to Liam Sterling. Beatrice grabbed the edge of the table. "Sarah," she whispered, You're a Harrington." Sarah stood up. She smoothed out her cheap navy dress. She looked at Liam, who was staring at her as if she had grown a second head. "My mother was Silas's daughter," Sarah said calmly. "I didn't want the money. I just wanted a family. I thought I found that with you, Liam. I thought you loved me, for me, not a name." She picked up the blue document Arthur had laid out. "But you proved me wrong every single day, for 5 years," she continued. "You called me poor. You called me a burden. You made me scrub the floors to earn my keep while you spent thousands on dinners with Jessica. Sarah, baby." Liam stammered, a desperate, sweaty smile forming on his face. He took a step toward her. Wait a second. This is a misunderstanding. I was stressed. You know I love you." "You signed the papers, Liam," Sarah said, her voice ice cold. "You smiled when you did it. I can tear them up." Liam lunged for the binder. Arthur Blackwood's 2 associates stepped forward, blocking him like a wall of granite. "The filing is electronic, Mr. Sterling," Arthur said smoothly. "It is irrevocable. You wanted her gone. She is gone." "Now," Sarah said, turning to Arthur, "read them the inventory, please." Arthur Blackwood adjusted his spectacles and opened the first page of the inventory. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. Beatrice had collapsed back into her chair, fanning herself with her hand. Liam was panting, his eyes darting between Sarah and the document. "The estate of Silas Harrington is valued at approximately $520 million in liquid assets," Arthur began. Liam made a choking sound. "However," Arthur continued, "the real value lies in the portfolio holdings. Sarah Jenkins is now the sole owner of the Harrington Trust. This trust holds the deed to the Harrington Tower in Chicago, the winery in Napa Valley, and a 40% controlling stake in First Merchant Bank." Beatrice let out a high-pitched gasp. "First Merchant, that's our bank." "Correct," Arthur said, looking at Beatrice over his glasses. "I believe Sterling Enterprises currently has a bridge loan of $12 million, with First Merchant alone that is up for renegotiation next week." Sarah walked over to the window, looking out at the city she now effectively owned a significant piece of. "Beatrice, you told me last week that I didn't understand the value of $1, that I should be grateful you let me live in your house." Sarah turned back. "I'm reviewing the loan terms, Beatrice, and based on what I've seen of your company's spending, Fancy Cars Country Club memberships, Jessica's consulting fees, I don't think Sterling Enterprises is a safe investment anymore." "You can't do that," Liam screamed. "That loan keeps the company afloat. If you call that loan, we go under. Business is business, Liam." Sarah quoted his own words from 3 months ago. "Isn't that what you told me when you refused to pay for my cat surgery? Business is business. Sarah, we can't throw money at dying things." Liam flinched as if he'd been slapped. "But that's not all," Arthur interrupted, turning a page. "There is the matter of the property." "Property?" Liam asked weakly. "The penthouse we are currently standing in," Arthur said, looking around the glass-walled room. "The Sterling building." "We own this building," Beatrice snapped, trying to regain her composure. "My husband built it in 1990. He built it Arthur corrected, on leased land. The ground lease was owned by a shell company, Orion Holdings. Arthur smiled. Orion Holdings was a subsidiary of Silas Harrington's empire. The 99-year lease had a termination clause upon the death of the primary leaseholder or a change in ownership control. Arthur slid a paper toward Beatrice. As the new owner of the land, Sarah has decided not to renew the lease for Sterling and Associates. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. 30 days? Beatrice shrieked. She stood up, her face purple. This is our headquarters. You can't evict us in 30 days. We have servers. We have archives. Actually, Sarah spoke up, walking back to the table. She placed her hands flat on the mahogany. I can give you more time. I'm not a monster, unlike some people. Hope flared in Liam's eyes. Sarah, thank you. I knew you still had a heart. We can work this out. I'll give you 60 days, Sarah said, if you vacate the family mansion in the Hamptons immediately, by tonight. The Hamptons house, Liam cried. But Jessica and I are hosting the summer solstice party there this weekend. Everyone is coming. The invitations are sent. Then I guess you'll have to uninvite them, Sarah said. Or maybe hold it at Jessica's apartment. Does she have room for 200 people in her studio? Sarah, please. Liam fell to his knees. It was a pathetic sight. The man who had strutted into the room like a king was now begging at the feet of the woman he had discarded. You can't do this. I'm your husband. I was your husband. We had good times, didn't we? Remember the trip to Cabo? I remember, Sarah said quietly. I remember you spent the whole week flirting with the poolside waitress while I sat in the room alone. I remember. She looked at Arthur. I think we're done here, Arthur. I have a lot of paperwork to sign. Real paperwork. Arthur nodded and snapped his briefcase shut. Gentlemen, he motioned to his security team. Please escort Mr. Sterling and his mother out of Ms. Jenkins' building. They have packing to do. You'll regret this, Beatrice screamed as the security guards stepped forward. You ungrateful little brat. You'll regret this. No one will love you. You're cold. You're just like your grandfather. I hope so, Sarah said, watching them get dragged towards the door. Liam tried to grab Sarah's hand as he was pulled past her. Sarah, I love you. I made a mistake. Sarah didn't flinch. She just watched the elevator doors close on his weeping face. The room fell silent again. Arthur looked at Sarah. Are you okay, Miss Jenkins? Sarah took a deep breath. For the first time in 5 years, the air didn't feel heavy. It felt crisp. It felt like freedom. I'm fine, Arthur, she said. But we have work to do. Liam mentioned a party this weekend. Yes, the summer solstice gala. It's the social event of the season. Sarah walked to the window, looking down at the ants scurrying on the street below. A slow smile spread across her face, not a polite smile, but a smile of a woman who held all the cards. I think I'll attend, Sarah said. And I think I need a new dress, something red. And Arthur, yes, ma'am. Find out everything you can about Jessica. If she likes my husband so much, let's see how much she likes his debts. The drive to Jessica's apartment was the longest of Liam Sterling's life. His hands were gripping the steering wheel of his Porsche so tightly his knuckles were white. He knew in the back of his mind that this car was technically leased through the company, a company he was about to be evicted from. But he pushed that thought down. He had to fix this. He could always fix things. He was a Sterling. He pulled up to the curb of the luxury high-rise in Tribeca. Jessica lived in a studio apartment that Liam paid for under the guise of consulting expenses. He took the elevator up, rehearsing his speech. He wouldn't tell her the whole truth. He would tell her it was a temporary setback, a liquidity issue. Jessica loved him. She would understand. He unlocked the door and walked in. Jessica was lounging on the beige sectional sofa, surrounded by piles of clothes. She was holding up a sequined bikini, frowning at it. She was beautiful, undeniable, with blonde hair that cost $500 a month to maintain, and eyes that always seemed to be assessing the value of things around her. "Babe, finally," Jessica said without looking up. "I need your credit card. The florist for the Hamptons party says the deposit bounced. Probably just a glitch, but it's annoying. And I need to book the caterers for the after-party." Liam loosened his tie, feeling like the room was shrinking. "Jess, we need to talk." Jessica dropped the bikini. She sensed the shift in the air immediately. She sat up, her eyes narrowing. "Why do you look like you're about to throw up?" Did the old hag refuse to sign? "No, she signed," Liam said, walking over to the minibar to pour himself a drink. His hands were shaking. "Sarah signed. The divorce is final. So we're celebrating." Jessica clapped her hands. "Pop the champagne. Why the long face? There was a complication." Liam downed the scotch in one gulp. "It turns out Sarah had some hidden assets. Family money we didn't know about. So who cares?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "Let her keep her little savings account. We have the company. We have the Hamptons house." "That's the thing." Liam turned to face her. "We don't. Not anymore." He explained it. He tried to soften the blow, leaving out the part where he begged on his knees, but he had to explain the eviction. He had to explain that the Hamptons house was currently being locked down by private security, hired by his ex-wife. He had to explain that the company accounts were frozen pending a loan audit. Jessica listened in silence. Her face didn't show sadness or empathy. It went blank. It was the face of a trader watching a stock crash. "So," Jessica said slowly, standing up, "let me get this straight. You don't have the house this weekend." "No," Liam said, "but we can go to my mother's place in Connecticut. It's rustic. "I don't do rustic, Liam," she snapped. "And the company, you said you were the CEO. You said you owned it." "I do." "But the building, the loan," Liam stammered. "Look, it's temporary. I just need you to be there for me. Sarah is trying to ruin us, but if we stick together, we can fight this. I love you, Jess. Isn't that what matters?" Jessica looked at him. She looked at his suit, which suddenly seemed a little less expensive to her. She looked at the watch on his wrist. "You have 24 hours to fix this," Jessica said coldly. "What?" "The summer solstice party," Jessica said, picking up her phone. "I have invited influencers, Liam. I have invited people from Vogue. If I show up in Connecticut at some dusty cottage instead of the Hamptons estate, I will be a laughingstock. Fix it. Get the house back, or don't bother coming back here tonight." "Jess, you can't be serious. I just lost $50 million in assets. And I'm about to lose 5,000 followers if I don't post content from a mansion this weekend," she screamed, throwing a cushion at him. "Get out! Go fix it." Liam fled the apartment. He sat in his Porsche, hyperventilating. His mother Beatrice was blowing up his phone. He answered it. "Liam, my cards," Beatrice shrieked. "I'm at lunch with the ladies' auxiliary. The waiter just told me my platinum card was declined. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" "Mother, stop screaming." Liam rubbed his temples. "Sarah froze the company accounts. The cards are linked to the business." "Fix it," Beatrice yelled. Go to her, apologize, do whatever you have to do. We cannot be poor, Liam. I refuse to be poor. Meanwhile, across the city, Sarah Jenkins was experiencing a very different kind of afternoon. She was sitting in the back of a blacked-out Rolls-Royce Phantom, driven by one of Arthur Blackwood's staff. Beside her sat Arthur, reviewing a tablet. "We've secured the perimeter of the Hamptons estate," Arthur reported. "The locks have been changed. The staff has been retained. They were quite happy to switch allegiances once we offered them a 20% raise and full benefits. Apparently your mother-in-law was not a generous employer." "She docked their pay if they broke a glass," Sarah said, staring out the window. "Arthur, I need a stylist." Arthur tapped his screen. "I have arranged for a private viewing at Maison de Valois in Soho. They closed the store for you." "But Sarah, are you sure you want to do this? The gala is in 2 days. You could just cancel it. Retreat to privacy." Sarah turned to him. Her eyes were hard. "For 5 years I was invisible, Arthur. I wore what they told me to wear. I spoke when they told me to speak. Liam and Beatrice thrived on their public image. They care more about what strangers think of them than they care about their own family. If I cancel the party, they win. They'll spin a story that I'm crazy that I stole the money." "No." She sat up straighter. "I'm not cancelling the party. I'm hosting it. And I'm going to introduce them to the real Sarah." The car pulled up to the boutique. The manager was waiting outside, bowing low as Sarah stepped out. Inside, racks of gowns worth more than most people's annual salaries were displayed. Sarah walked past the pastels and the florals, the things Beatrice used to force her to wear to look demure. "I want red," Sarah said. The stylist nodded and brought out a gown. It was a deep blood-red silk, structured and architectural. It had a slit up the leg and a neckline that was daring powerful. It was a dress for a woman who commanded rooms, not one who served drinks in them. Sarah put it on. She looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the tired housewife who cried in the bathroom while Liam texted his mistress. This woman was dangerous. "I'll take it," Sarah said. "And I need shoes. Sharp ones." As she was paying using a black titanium card linked to the Harrington Trust, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Liam. "Sarah, please. We need to talk. Jessica is being difficult. Mom is sick. Can we just meet for coffee? I miss you." Sarah stared at the message. Jessica is being difficult. Even now he was throwing his mistress under the bus to save his own skin. She typed a reply. "The summer solstice gala is still on. If you want to talk, come to the party. I'll see you there." She hit send. "Arthur," Sarah said, walking out of the store. "Make sure Liam and Jessica are on the guest list, but mark them as special attention." Arthur smiled a rare expression that reached his eyes. "With pleasure, Miss Jenkins." The Hamptons estate was glowing. Lanterns lined the long driveway, and the sound of a live jazz orchestra floated over the manicured hedges. It was the event of the summer. Every CEO socialite and power player in New York was there. But there was a buzz in the air that had nothing to do with the champagne. The rumors had started circulating that morning. Whispers about a hostile takeover. Whispers about a divorce settlement that had gone nuclear. At the front gate, security was tight. A silver Mercedes convertible screeched to a halt. Liam Sterling stepped out, wearing a white tuxedo that looked slightly wrinkled. Beatrice was in the passenger seat, looking pale and nervous. In the back sat Jessica, scrolling frantically on her phone, wearing a dress that was perhaps a bit too loud for the occasion. "Name?" the bouncer asked. He was a mountain of a man, holding a clipboard. "Liam Sterling," Liam said, puffing out his chest. "I'm the host. This is my house." The bouncer looked down at the list. He didn't smile. "I have you on the guest list, Mr. Sterling. But this is not your house. Not anymore." "Just let us in," Jessica snapped, stepping out of the car. "Do you know who I am?" The bouncer ignored her and pressed a button to open the heavy iron gates. "You may enter. Valet parking is full. You'll have to self-park in the overflow lot down the road." "Self-park?" Beatrice gasped. "I'm wearing vintage Dior." "Move the car, sir," the bouncer said. Humiliated Liam drove the car to the muddy field designated for overflow, parked, and the three of them trudged back up the driveway. Jessica was complaining about her heels sinking into the grass every step of the way. When they finally reached the terrace, the party was in full swing. But it was different. The cheap decorations Beatrice had ordered had been replaced by elegant modern art installations. The catering wasn't the usual dry chicken. It was a sushi bar flown in from Tokyo and a steak station manned by a celebrity chef. "Who paid for all this?" Liam whispered, looking around. "She's spending my money," Beatrice hissed. "That inheritance should have been community property. We need to sue her." Suddenly the music stopped. The lights on the terrace dimmed, and a spotlight hit the top of the grand staircase. Sarah stepped out. A collective gasp went through the crowd of 300 guests. She was wearing the red dress. Her hair, usually pulled back in a messy bun, was cascading in loose, glossy waves. She wore diamonds around her neck. Real diamonds, Harrington heirlooms that glittered like ice. She didn't look like the Sarah they knew. She looked like a queen. She descended the stairs slowly, every eye on her. She took the microphone from the band leader. "Good evening, everyone," Sarah said. Her voice was clear, amplified across the silent lawn. "Thank you for coming to the annual Solstice Gala. I know there have been some changes to the invitation." She scanned the crowd until her eyes locked on Liam, Beatrice, and Jessica, who were huddled near the shrimp cocktail tower. "For years," Sarah continued, "I stood in the background of this party. I made sure the glasses were full. I made sure the napkins were folded. I was told that was my place. I was told I was lucky to be here." She walked forward, the spotlight following her. "But recently I learned something valuable. I learned that loyalty has a price. And I learned that some people—" She paused, looking directly at Liam. "Think that kindness is a weakness." Liam felt the eyes of the room turn to him. He tried to smile, to wave as if this was all a joke they were sharing. "Liam," Sarah said, her voice dropping an octave, but still booming over the speakers. "Why don't you come up here?" Liam froze. This was his chance. She was calling him up. Maybe she wanted to reconcile publicly. Yes, that was it. She was dramatic, but she loved him. He straightened his bow tie and jogged up the stairs, leaving Jessica and Beatrice behind. He reached Sarah and tried to put his arm around her waist. Sarah stepped back smoothly, leaving his arm hanging in the air. "Liam," she said into the mic, "I invited you here tonight because I wanted to return something to you." "Sarah, baby, we can talk about this inside." Liam whispered, his smile straining. "No," Sarah said. "We do this here." Arthur Blackwood stepped out from the shadows carrying a silver tray. On it was a single, small envelope. Sarah picked it up. "This is the invoice for the last 5 years, Liam," Sarah said. "It includes the consulting fees for your mistress, Jessica. It includes the embezzlement from the company accounts to pay for your mother's gambling debts, and it includes the loan recall notice from First Merchant Bank." The crowd murmured. "Gambling debts?" Mistress, Jessica down in the crowd, turned pale. People were backing away from her as if she were contagious. "The bank is calling the loan Liam," Sarah said, handing him the envelope. "You owe $12 million. It is due at 9:00 a.m. on Monday. If it is not paid, Sterling Enterprises will be seized and liquidated." Liam stared at the envelope. You can't do this. I'm your husband." "Ex-husband," Sarah corrected. "And I'm not doing this. You did this. You spent money you didn't have to impress people who didn't care about you. You cheated on the only person who actually had your back." She turned to the crowd. "Enjoy the party, everyone. The bar is open all night, but Mr. Sterling and his guests are leaving." Security guards materialized out of nowhere. They flanked Liam. "No, no," Liam shouted, the veneer finally cracking. Jessica, tell her we're in love." He looked down into the crowd, searching for his lifeline. Jessica was gone. She hadn't waited for the end of the speech. The moment she heard $12 million debt, she had slipped into the crowd. She was currently near the VIP section, laughing loudly at a joke made by a 60-year-old hedge fund manager named Robert, her hand resting suggestively on his arm. She didn't even look back as Liam was dragged away. Beatrice tried to scream, "I am a Sterling," but she was escorted out swiftly, her heels dragging in the grass. Sarah stood alone on the staircase. She watched them go. She didn't feel happy. She didn't feel sad. She felt clean. A handsome man in a tuxedo, one of the banking partners from London she had read about in the files Arthur gave her, stepped forward. He raised a glass to her. "To the new hostess," he said. "To the new hostess." The crowd echoed. Sarah smiled, the first real smile in years. But the night wasn't over. As the band started playing again, Arthur approached her, looking serious. "Miss Jenkins," he said quietly, "we have a problem. We just accessed Liam's private email server during the seizure. There's something you need to see. It wasn't just greed, Sarah. There was someone else pulling the strings behind Liam. Someone much more dangerous." Sarah's smile faded. "Who?" Arthur handed her his tablet. "Does the name Vanguard Corp mean anything to you?" Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Vanguard Corp was the company that had driven her grandfather, Silas Harrington, into hiding 20 years ago. "Liam was working with them," Sarah whispered. "No," Arthur said. "He was being used by them. They knew who you were, Sarah, even before you knew. They set Liam up to marry you. They've been watching you for 5 years. The twists were just beginning. The morning after the gala, the headlines were brutal. Sterling silver turns to rust, the fall of a dynasty. The Harrington heiress emerges. Who is the mystery woman in red? But inside the library of the Harrington estate, a fortress of stone and oak hidden in the hills of upstate New York. Sarah wasn't reading the papers. She was staring at a wall of monitors that Arthur's team had set up. "Explain it to me again, Arthur," Sarah said, her voice steady. She had traded the red gown for a sharp black business suit. She looked less like a debutante and more like a CEO preparing for war. Arthur pointed to a timeline on the screen. "Your grandfather Silas didn't just make enemies in business. He made enemies in ideology. He believed in ethical banking funding innovation, not exploitation. Vanguard Corp is the opposite. They are a conglomerate that thrives on stripping assets and destroying competition. 20 years ago, they tried to buy Silas out. He refused. They tried to blackmail him. He went into seclusion. "And Liam?" Sarah asked. "Look at this." Arthur tapped a key. A series of bank transfers appeared. "These are payments made to a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. The beneficiary, Beatrice Serling." Sarah's eyes widened. Beatrice was being paid $50,000 a month, Arthur confirmed. The payments started 5 years ago, exactly 1 month before you met Liam. Sarah felt the room spin. "They set me up. The spilled coffee. Liam bumping into me at the library. It wasn't fate. It was a job." "Vanguard knew you were Silas's only heir," Arthur explained grimly. "They couldn't kill you too suspicious, and the trust would just go to charity. They needed to neutralize you. They needed you married to someone weak, someone controlled, someone who would keep you so busy with domestic misery that you'd never look for your grandfather. And if you ever did inherit, they assumed Liam would have spousal control over the assets. But they didn't know about the bad husband clause," Sarah realized. "Precisely." Arthur nodded. "Silas was paranoid. He suspected someone might try to entrap you. That clause was his fail-safe. By divorcing you to marry Jessica, Liam accidentally broke the cage Vanguard had built around you." Sarah walked to the window. The betrayal was no longer just about a cheating husband. It was systemic. Her entire adult life had been a curated lie designed to keep her small. "Where is he?" Sarah asked. "Liam." Arthur checked his tablet. "He spent the night in his car. His mother is staying with a distant cousin in Queens. Liam is currently at a diner on Route 9 trying to sell his watch." "Get the car," Sarah said. "I need to have a conversation with my ex-husband." The diner was greasy, smelling of burnt bacon and stale coffee. Liam sat in a booth in the back, looking like a ghost of the man he was 24 hours ago. His tuxedo shirt was unbuttoned, stained with wine. He was arguing with a pawnbroker on the phone. "It's a submariner. It's worth 15 grand. "What do you mean? 5, Liam shouted, then slammed the phone down. He looked up and saw Sarah standing there. For a second, his old arrogance flickered. "Come to gloat. Or did you realize you made a mistake?" Sarah slid into the booth opposite him. She didn't order anything. She placed a single photo on the table. It was a surveillance shot Arthur had found. It showed Beatrice handing a thick envelope to a man in a grey trench coat. "Who is he, Liam?" Sarah asked. Liam looked at the photo. His face went pale. I don't know." "Don't lie to me," Sarah said, her voice low and dangerous. "I own the bank that holds your debt. I own the building your mother just got kicked out of. I can make your life very hard, or I can make it bearable." "Who is the man?" Liam swallowed hard. He looked around the diner, terrified. "His name is Victor Draven. He works for Vanguard." "And what was the deal?" Mom told me that if I married you, she'd get an investment for the company." Liam whispered, tears forming in his eyes. "She said you were a nobody, a orphan with no connections. She said it would be easy. Just keep you happy enough to stay, but miserable enough not to ask questions. And Jessica was a bonus," Liam admitted, looking down. "Victor introduced her to me. He said I deserved better. He encouraged the affair. He said if I divorced you, I'd be free." Sarah sat back. It was masterfully cruel. Vanguard had orchestrated the marriage to contain her, and then orchestrated the divorce to destroy her, thinking they could swoop in and buy the assets from a destitute divorcee. They just hadn't counted on the inheritance triggering after the divorce. "You were a puppet, Liam," Sarah said with pity. "A puppet for your mother, and a puppet for a corporation." "Sarah, please." Liam reached across the table. "I'm in trouble. Victor, he called me this morning. He said I failed. He said I owe him." "You do owe him," Sarah said, standing up. "But that's not my problem." "Help me," Liam begged. "I have nothing." Sarah paused. She looked at the man she had wasted 5 years on. "I'll give you one thing, Liam," she said. "I'll buy your watch for $500. That should get you a bus ticket out of town. I suggest you take it. Victor Draven doesn't seem like the forgiving type." She dropped $500 bills on the table and walked out, leaving Liam staring at the money, the realization of his wasted life crashing down on him. The headquarters of First Merchant Bank was a skyscraper that pierced the clouds. Sarah sat at the head of the boardroom table. She had been the owner for 48 hours, and already the wolves were circling. The room was filled with 12 board members, older men in grey suits who looked at her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Miss Jenkins, excuse me, Miss Harrington," said the chairman, a man named Mr. Finch. "While we respect your grandfather's legacy, the situation is volatile. Vanguard Corp has announced a hostile takeover bid this morning. They are offering 30% above market value for our shares. The shareholders are tempted." "Vanguard is a cancer," Sarah said, reading from the files Arthur had prepared. "If they buy this bank, they will liquidate the small business loan division and raid the pension fund. That's their playbook." "That may be true," Finch sighed, "but money talks. Unless you have a counter-strategy, the board has a fiduciary duty to consider the offer." The double doors swung open. A man walked in. He was tall, wearing a charcoal suit that fit too perfectly. He had slicked-back dark hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Victor Draven," Arthur whispered in Sarah's ear. "My apologies for the interruption," Victor said, his voice smooth like oil. "I represent Vanguard Corp. I thought I should deliver our updated offer in person." He slid a folder down the long table. It stopped perfectly in front of Sarah. "Ms. Harrington," Victor nodded to her. "Or should I call you Mrs. Sterling? Oh, wait. That's right. Divorced. A shame. Liam was such a promising young man." Sarah didn't flinch. "State your business, Mr. Draven, and then get out of my building." "Feisty." Victor chuckled. "I like that. Your grandfather was stubborn, too. It's what got him destroyed." He turned to the board. "Gentlemen, Vanguard is increasing its offer. We are prepared to buy out every share at 50% premium. But only if the deal is signed today. If not, we will release certain information regarding the bank's solvency." "What information?" Finch asked nervously. "We know about the bad loans in the South American sector," Victor lied smoothly. "We know this bank is bleeding. Sell to us and we save you. Refuse, and we leak the data the stock tanks and you all lose your pensions." The board members began to panic. They whispered frantically to each other. "We should sell," one said. "He's right. The South American risk is too high," said another. Victor smirked at Sarah. "It's over, little girl. You had a nice weekend playing queen. But now the adults are talking. Sign the bank over. Go buy an island. Disappear." Sarah looked at Victor. She looked at the terrified board members. She felt a familiar feeling, the feeling of being underestimated. Beatrice had done it. Liam had done it. Now Victor was doing it. She stood up. "Arthur," she said, "pull up the screen." The projector hummed to life. "You mentioned the South American sector, Mr. Draven," Sarah said, walking toward him. "It's funny you should mention that, because I spent last night reviewing the files." A spreadsheet appeared on the screen. "There are no bad loans in South America," Sarah announced. "Those loans were actually covert investments made by Vanguard Corp laundered through this bank, without my grandfather's permission, using a mole in the accounting department." Victor's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "That's absurd," he scoffed. "Is it?" Sarah pressed a button. A photo appeared. It was Mr. Finch, the board chairman, shaking hands with Victor Draven on a golf course. "Mr. Finch has been falsifying the reports to lower the stock price," Sarah declared, turning to the chairman who was now sweating profusely. "He wanted to drive the price down so Vanguard could buy it cheap. It's called market manipulation, and it is a federal crime." The room erupted. "This is slander," Finch shouted, standing up. "It's evidence," Sarah countered, throwing a stack of papers on the table. "Arthur's team traced the offshore accounts. Finch, you took a bribe of $2 million last week." She turned back to Victor. "Your hostile takeover is dead, Victor. Because I am implementing the poison pill protocol my grandfather wrote into the corporate bylaws." "The what?" Victor narrowed his eyes. "If the bank is threatened by an unethical acquisition," Sarah recited, "the trust automatically donates 51% of the voting shares to a non-profit foundation dedicated to, let's see, the prevention of corporate greed. Which means effectively I can't sell to you even if I wanted to, and neither can the board." Silence descended on the room. Victor's face turned a shade of red that clashed with his tie. He realized he had been outplayed, not by a lawyer but by the housewife he had dismissed. "You have no idea what you've started," Victor hissed, stepping closer to her. "Vanguard is not just a company. It's a machine. We will bury you. We will dig up every secret, every mistake, every skeleton." "I have no secrets left, Victor," Sarah said, meeting his gaze. "You and Liam and Beatrice took everything from me. I have nothing to lose, which makes me the most dangerous person in this room." She pointed to the door. "Security is waiting. I suggest you leave before I have you arrested for trespassing and corporate espionage." Victor straightened his jacket. He looked at her with pure hatred. "This isn't a victory, Sarah. It's a declaration of war." He turned and stormed out. "Mr. Finch," Sarah said, not even looking at the trembling chairman. "You're fired, and expect a call from the SEC." As the boardroom dissolved into chaos, Arthur walked up to Sarah. He looked impressed. "That was unexpected," Arthur said. "The poison pill, I didn't know Silas had that." "He didn't?" Sarah whispered, her knees finally shaking a little. "I bluffed. But now I have about 24 hours to make it legal before they figure it out." Arthur laughed. "You are definitely a Harrington." "We won the battle, Arthur," Sarah said, looking out at the skyline. "But Victor is right. The war is just starting. He's going to come for me personally now." "We need allies," Arthur said. "Vanguard is too big to fight alone." "I know," Sarah said. She pulled a business card out of her pocket. It was a card given to her by the handsome man at the gala, Ethan the European investor. "Get me a meeting with Ethan Vane. He represents the only banking consortium Vanguard is afraid of." "Ethan Vane?" Arthur raised an eyebrow. "He's known as the corporate assassin. He's not an easy man to charm." "I'm not looking for a date, Arthur," Sarah said, her eyes cold. "I'm looking for a weapon." Sarah met Ethan Vane at midnight in a private hangar at JFK. He was leaning against a sleek jet, looking every bit the corporate assassin Arthur had described. "You're the woman who bluffed a boardroom," Ethan said, not offering his hand. "Arthur tells me you need protection from Vanguard." "I don't need protection, Mr. Vane," Sarah replied, stepping into the light. "I need ammunition. Vanguard is overextended. I have the internal documents proving they manipulated my bank's stock. If you buy the controlling stake now, we can dismantle them piece by piece. You get their assets, I get my piece." Ethan studied her for a long moment. A slow grin spread across his face. "I like your style, Sarah. We have a deal." With Vane's capital securing the bank, Vanguard's hostile takeover collapsed within hours. Victor Draven was fired before the market opened the next day. But the final nail in the coffin came from an unexpected source. Later that afternoon, Sarah's secretary buzzed in a visitor. It was Jessica. The mistress looked different. No heavy makeup, no designer dress. She wore jeans and a t-shirt, looking tired. She placed a small flash drive on Sarah's desk. "What is this?" Sarah asked, cold. "Liam was paranoid," Jessica said, her voice flat. "He recorded every conversation with Victor Draven. He thought he could use it to blackmail Vanguard for more money later. I stole it from his glove compartment while he was sleeping in the car." "Why give this to me?" Sarah asked. "You hate me." "I don't hate you," Jessica shrugged. "I wanted your life, but watching Liam cry in a parking lot, I realized he was never the prize. You were the one holding it all together." She turned to leave. "Use it. Destroy them. I'm going back to Ohio." Sarah plugged in the drive. It was all there. Bribery, extortion, fraud. 2 days later, Victor Draven was indicted by the FBI. Beatrice Sterling was forced to declare bankruptcy. And Liam Sarah saw him one last time. She was leaving a charity dinner, stepping into her limousine. Liam was there wearing a red vest, opening the door for guests. He was working as a valet. He froze when he saw her. He looked at the diamonds around her neck, then at his own name tag. "Sarah," he whispered. Sarah didn't speak. She just tipped him a $10 bill, the exact price of the movie ticket for their first date, and signaled her driver to drive away. She didn't look back. She had an empire to run. And that is how Sarah went from a discarded wife signing divorce papers to one of the most powerful women in the city. Liam and his mother thought they were throwing away trash, but they were actually throwing away a winning lottery ticket. They learned the hard way that you should never mistreat someone just because you think they have no power, because power can shift in the blink of an eye. Sarah didn't just get revenge, she got justice. What would you have done if you were Sarah? Would you have helped Liam when he was begging in the diner, or did he get exactly what he deserved? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of karma and sweet revenge, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. We have a crazy one coming up next week about a boss who fired his janitor, only to realize the janitor owned the building. Thanks for watching.